Good evening and mahalo for joining us for this historic candidate forum for the candidates seeking to be the next chair of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. My name is Michael Galoya Jr. and I'm chair of the LGBT caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, and I will be your host for this forum. I would like to thank the co-sponsors for tonight's forum, the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus, the Labor Caucus, the Environmental Caucus, the Kapuna Caucus, the Education Caucus, the Veterans Caucus, the LGBT Caucus, and the Women's Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, as well as our Young Democrats of Hawaii. On behalf of the co-sponsors, we would like to thank the Oahu County Committee for the use of their Zoom account, as well as to Joe Francher for being our Zoom tech, and to Auntie Leimomi for being our moderator. We'd also like to thank the candidates for participating, and a special mahalo for all of you for tuning in tonight. There we go. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the format for tonight's forum. Each candidate will be given 20 minutes divided up as follows. 3 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement, with the remaining time used for questions to be asked by Auntie Leimomi that were submitted by our co-sponsors, and they will be in random order for each of our participants. There will be a 2-minute break between candidates so we can get them, making sure everything's ready in ready order. The candidates will appear in the following order: Tyler de Santos Tam, Josh Frost, and Kevan Wong. Please note that this film is being recorded, and the co-sponsors are going to be able to share that with their members as well as post to their Facebook pages. For all the delegates, voting for party chair is only open to the 2020 Democratic Party of Hawaii state delegates that completed their registrations by July 1st. Voting for the party chair and the state Senate reps of the State Central Committee will commence on Friday, June 24th at 12 a.m. and will remain open until Saturday, July 25th at 11:59 p.m. Registered state delegates will receive 2 emails on Friday, July 24th at 12 a.m., one from the interim party chair, Kate Stanley, calling this 2020 state convention back into order, and another email from our third-party vendor, Miriam River Group. That email will contain the link to the voting website along with the delegate's voting PIN number and their verification code. Delegates will need both of these to vote online. If a delegate has any issues with voting, there's a toll-free number for them to call to get assistance from our vendor. Please do not call the party. We are unable to help you with that. That goes to our vendor. For delegates that do not have access to email or the internet, there is an ability to vote via the telephone, and those delegates have already been informed of those procedures. Before we get to the main event tonight, we have a special guest with us. She asked to be able to address you all tonight, and after all that she has done for our party, we of course granted her request. On that, I would like to introduce our current interim party chair, Kate Stanley.
Thank you, Michael, and aloha to everybody. I want to thank all the candidates and those that are participating in this forum for attending. I'd like to thank the caucuses for sponsoring this. It is with a little bit of sadness that I asked Michael for some time to make this statement. Last night, many delegates received an anonymous email. The delegate list was made available to candidates for the various party officers and positions. The email last night appears to be a misuse of the delegate list and will be investigated. The email is an example of nasty politics and should not occur in any Democratic Party race. This is not aloha. People who engage in rants and highly charged messages help destroy our community and the Democratic Party of Hawaii. I urge everyone to campaign with integrity and aloha. Delegates and candidates should not in any way encourage divisiveness and nastiness. As members of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, we all must work to strengthen the party and practice the spirit of aloha. Have a very good forum tonight. Thank you.
Mahalo, Kate, for that very important message. I would like to say to all the members of the LGBT caucus that are watching, if you have any information that will aid in the investigation, to please come forward. And that's all I have to say on that. And now to the main event. First, I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening. She is the former chair of the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus, and starting July 26th, she will be one of the Oahu County Committee's representatives on the State Central Committee. Antile Momi, take it away.
Mahalo, Michael. It's great to be here this evening, and welcome to all of our candidates. And our first candidate this evening, right out of the chute, is Tyler Dos Santos Tam. Tyler, thank you for being here. And now for your opening statement. You have 30 seconds.
Thought it was 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Correct?
Sorry, 3 minutes.
Sure. Well, thank you, Antile Momi. I'm Tyler Dos Santos Tam, and I'm very grateful for our caucuses and our Young Dems for hosting this Zoom forum. I'm running for party chair this year to offer my energy, experience, and ability to lead our party forward for the next 2 years. I'm running to be a chair who will prioritize and deliver on our fundraising, to be a chair who will work effectively to empower the counties and the party's committees, to be a chair who will be inclusive to make sure that there are diverse voices represented at the table, and to be a chair who will communicate with members in the public so our party is as relevant today as it was back in 1954. Tonight, I'd like to talk about another reason why I'd like to serve as your chair. And that is something that Kate just mentioned, and that is specifically to cut through the nonsense and negativity that turns so many people off from meaningfully participating. We've seen that dynamic at play in the last 24 hours, and it is a system-wide problem. It's why we struggle to bring in and cultivate new leaders. It's why we struggle to have an effective relationship with our legislators. And I'm here to rise above it. I'm running to be a chair who will not be bogged down, will put his nose to the grindstone and roll up his sleeves to get the job done. I'm proud of what I've done for this party and want to put my experience to work to make it even better. Going back to fundraising, this must be the first and foremost job of our chair. As president and chair of the Young Dems, we brought in $75,000 in 2015 and 2017 for our conferences and conventions, which we used to bring nationally recognized trainers like Christine Pelosi and the PCCC to the islands. We use those funds to provide scholarships and stipends for our members on the neighbor islands to come to Oahu to participate. We wanted to be inclusive, and so we put our money where our mouth is and made it happen. In terms of my second platform plank, empowering our members and being inclusive, our party and our bylaws has 12 standing committees, and I pledge to appoint people of diverse backgrounds and viewpoints and hold them accountable to meet year-round and deliver results. I'll also pledge to run our SEC meetings efficiently and effectively. You know, to help bring people in, people who never thought of themselves as political, people who grew up maybe in a conservative family, or those looking to make a change in their community. I pledge to hold one training a month and one educational seminar a month. These will be open to all, with some of them anchored on the neighbor islands when it's safe to have people gather in one place again. And in terms of communication, I think we need to pursue media opportunities. And with my background as a strategic communications consultant, this is an area that I think we can excel in. And so I pledge to resurrect our PDF newsletter. People will have to know what our party is up to, and they have to be proud of being a Democrat. And I think with my experience, energy, and leadership, we'll have a lot of good news to share. And so that's it for my opening statement. Again, I'm Tyler Dos Santos Tam, and I'm asking for your support to be your next party chair. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Tyler. And now we're ready for the questions. So the first question is, as party chair, will you advocate for a $17 an hour minimum wage?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, in my personal capacity, I've testified, as well as in my capacity as the Young Dems, we put in testimony and support. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. The second question is, the DPH platform provides that we support the right of Native Hawaiians to self-determination, including the formation of their chosen governmental entity. As chair of the party, do you support the right of self-governance by Native Hawaiians? If so, how will you show that support as chair? If not, why not?
So absolutely. As somebody that grew up here in these islands, I think it's incredibly important that our Native Hawaiian community has the opportunity to right historic wrongs and come together and determine their future. As chair, I would like to lead with that example, but as you know, our platform and legislative committees need to take the lead. I don't want to be a chair that micromanages what those committees do. And so I'd like to empower them to be able to move forward. One role of the chair, however, is to appoint people with, again, as I mentioned, diverse backgrounds. And I want to make sure that our Native Hawaiian community is represented on those committees so that they can be empowered to lead and share that and carry the flag forward on these issues on behalf of our party.
Mahalo. The third question is, will you actively support at the DNC gender diversity instead of National Committee woman and man, and why?
Yes, I think that the SEC was wise in changing the gender designations in how we operate here. And I think that we can be an example on the national level. So happy to support that.
Great, thank you so much. Question number 4. In 2020, the Environmental Caucus submitted a Green New Deal Hawaii package consisting of 33 bills covering a variety of issues. A similar package will be submitted for the 2021 legislative session. Will you support this package? Why or why not?
So again, as chair, I'm not here to micromanage what our committees do. I think it's really important that our caucuses are empowered to testify at the legislature and share their opinions. And I would hope that the chair doesn't get in the way of that. As I mentioned before, I also think it's important that those committees take the lead and that we support them. I am proud to say that in our Oahu County Committee has been very active in supporting various bills. I know that Melody, who's on this call, has been a strong leader at the legislature in putting in testimony. I hope that that continues. And, I think the most important thing for us is that we show our presence at the legislature and have good relationships with them. And that's something that I'd like to bring as chair.
Thank you. Question number 5, how will you increase voter engagement within the party and more specifically voter engagement on the neighbor islands?
Sure. I'm very privileged that my current job often takes me to the neighbor islands, and I also have family on the other islands and often visit them. And as chair, one thing that I'd like to pledge to do is to be available in person on the neighbor islands to meet with our members and delegates, as well as to hold open office hours, virtually, because I do want to hear from our members and take their, opinions and thoughts into consideration. So that's one point that I'd like to make, but specifically to voter engagement, I would say there's 2 things that we need to do. The first is through our coordinated campaign, which, is going to start on August 9th. And we've done very little planning to that. So the next chair is going to have to pick that up and run. That can be a really good venue to show people why it's important for them to register and get engaged. And as part of our coordinated campaign in 2020, I think that voter registration, especially now that it's all mail, is going to have to be a top priority. I also have been a participant in and a supporter of the Blue Wave and Indivisible programs, which encourage voter registration, not only on the local level, but also in key swing states. I think Hawaii can do a great job of supporting folks in those battleground states to make sure they turn out. And as a local coordinator for Hawaii for Biden, I hope that our supporters here are going to be able to engage folks in those battleground states to make sure they turn out to vote.
Great, thank you. Question number 6, given the impact of COVID-19, so many have lost their employment-tied health insurance. Would you support a Hawaii-based universal health care system or Medicare for all? Why or why not? And if yes, how would you influence the legislature?
I think it's a noble goal. I think, again, as I keep going back to, our legislative and platform committee, it is in our platform that we support a universal healthcare system. And I think it's important that we as a party come together to support whatever vehicle ends up being at the legislature. But again, it's going to be up to our platform and legislative committees to move that forward. And, I'm here to support them all the way for sure. Specifically as to what's in those plans and those details, I would defer to experts in this area. One thing that I mentioned in my opening statement is the importance of training and educational seminars. I think that to make sure that our members are engaged and empowered at the legislature, we ought to be able to train them on the legislative process, how to testify, how to be relevant there, how to be effective. And then also have educational seminars. I'd love to have an expert on universal healthcare and Medicare for all come in and talk with our members and have that open to our membership.
Great. The next question is, how will you actively support reproductive rights for women, including choice?
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, sort of a one of those issues that, like, I think all Democrats ought to support. Not being a woman myself, I would definitely defer to the women of the party to take the lead here and speak up. I know recently there's been a lot of issues with the $2.2 million that was cut from the legislative budget that supports women's health care. I know Planned Parenthood has been a strong supporter of this. I've put in testimony on this in my personal capacity. I'm proud to do it, would do it again. Of note, when I ran for city council in 2018, I was proud to be the only challenger in that race to be endorsed by Planned Parenthood. And that's the kind of advocate that I'd like to be in my personal capacity and be a leader in the party that will bring folks along in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As DPH chair, what will you do to support public education, especially with regard to our state's chronic teacher shortage?
You know, I think there's a number of really interesting bills of the legislature that speak exactly to this, whether it's, you know, improving our school facilities, whether it's teacher housing, and I think there's some really innovative ideas for that, supporting incentives and tax credits to get that built. You know, I think that's one thing. Obviously, increasing teacher salaries is another really important matter, as well as recruitment. You know, there are a lot of leaders in our party who come from an education background, whether that's through HSTA or whether that's through at the higher education level. And again, I mentioned that, you know, we ought to engage our members and educate them on different issues. And I'd love to have an education policy forum as part of, you know, one of those monthly educational seminars, because I think it is really important that we all get up to speed on, you know, the issues facing our teachers and our educators here in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Tyler, what's your position on the Red Hill fuel tanks?
I think it's clear that it is a ticking time bomb. You know, when I ran for city council, this was right in the district, and it was on the minds of a lot of legislators. I think our federal delegation has been doing a good job of pushing the Navy, but it's going to take, you know, more than that. It's going to take, you know, our folks here to be engaged. I think that our regions and districts within that area, as well as all across Oahu, because we're all affected, you know, should be engaged in this issue. So yes, absolutely. I mean, they should be shut down. It's unsafe, but, you know, it's going to take the cooperation of the Navy to happen. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yes. Okay, changing this up a little bit. Will you actively promote diversity in the party leadership at every level, including women, people of color, LGBTQ, Kupuna, Native Hawaiian, and how will you do this? I think you mentioned earlier some of your thoughts. But
I did.
How will you do this?
Sure. You know, I think that it's, as I mentioned, you know, one of my key priorities is going to be making sure that our party committees, our chairs and co-chairs are diverse, are reflective of the diversity of the people of Hawaii, as well as the diverse, you know, ideology and ideas within our party. It serves us no good if everyone who participates at that level is exactly the same. As somebody who's, you know, of mixed heritage, you know, I note that Filipinos are really underrepresented in our party, and that's something that I have been active in getting young Filipinos involved. That's something that I'd like to continue doing. Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, I'm really proud that our delegation going to the national level has a good level of diversity. We hit our goals. And I think our Affirmative Action Committee, you know, that's something that they should be looking at, not just our DSP, our delegate selection plan every 2 years, but really on a year-round basis. There's a lot of ethnic media. I talked about communication. There's a lot of ethnic media that we can talk about. One thing that I'd love to do is have a column in ethnic media to reach out to communities like the Filipino community. There's 2 ethnic papers here on Oahu that serve that community, one on Maui, Japanese papers, you know, Native Hawaiian. I know OHA has a newsletter. You know, these are the kind of opportunities that we should be pursuing to show people that we are a party that's diverse, that cares about them and their issues and can really embrace them.
Mm-hmm. Great. Question number 11. What will you do to promote the Democratic Party of Hawaii's platform and our legislative priorities so that they are prioritized by our state level elected officials?
Sure. I think that, as I mentioned in my second platform plank, it's really important that we empower our committees, specifically our legislative and platform committee. They ought to be meeting year round, not just when all the bills, are posted in late January. And if the party, wants to lead on issues, they ought to have a package of bills that are submitted. They ought to be meeting with the legislators in the off season, in the summer and the fall, to make sure that, our priorities are heard. I can't guarantee that all of them are going to make it past the finish line, but we will make a strong concerted effort, if I'm chair, to get our priorities there. It may not happen in 1 year, it may not happen in 2 years, but we're going to set a good foundation to get there. I think another point is having good relationships with our legislators. I think that one criticism that I've heard from a lot of them in my discussions is, it's a two-way street, right? They feel like the party sometimes attacks them for not doing things. The party doesn't thank them when they do good things. And similarly, we need to bring the legislators in. I'm glad that a lot of them are delegates. I'm glad that a lot of them showed up at precinct meetings, but we need to do a better job of bringing them back in so we have a good, strong two-way dialogue with our legislators.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. For over a decade, graduate assistants employed at the University of Hawaii have been trying to unionize. As party chair, will you support their efforts to pass a bill that will allow them to unionize?
Absolutely. When I was the executive director of the Hawaii Construction Alliance, which is a group of 5 labor unions, we submitted testimony in support of this. Through the Young Dems, we've supported it. And, I am someone who believes that all workers ought to have the right to unionize and to be a part of that. Having been a union member during that time that I was with the Construction Alliance, I've definitely seen, the benefits of that. I'm really proud to have organized the largest non-union contractor in the state when I was with the Alliance, and brought those employees into the fold, into the various trades to which they belonged. And in my current consulting life, one of my clients is a very small union, the security guard union. They just got a pretty major award and back pay. And, so labor is something that is really deep in my heart, and, something that I would absolutely fight for. It's near and dear to my heart. I was also a member of the Labor Caucus. I was a Labor Caucus's SEC member. So yeah, no question, grad students should be organized.
Mm-hmm. Great. What do you see the role of the caucuses as in our party? And will you support the formation of other caucuses?
Sure. Having been a leader in the Young Democrats for 10 years now, and a member of a number of other caucuses, LGBT caucus, as well as the Labor Caucus, I absolutely believe that they have an important role. There is the purpose of the caucuses is to help underrepresented communities and underrepresented voices to be at the table within the party. That's true on the state level. That's true on the national level. And so, if somebody wants to form a committee, there's a process that they should follow, and it needs to be, it should be for underrepresented groups to have a voice and a seat at the table. So if there's someone out there that would like to do it, I'm all ears.
Yes, great. The next question, which is near and dear to my heart, is the DPH platform Legislative Priorities Action Planks provides the party's support for reinstating full percentage of public land trust revenues set aside for the betterment of Native Hawaiians. The legislature has considered several bills over recent years to update the pro rata share. As chair, do you support updating the pro rata share of the public land trust revenues to Native Hawaiians? If so, how would you advance this support? If not, why not?
So yes, absolutely. And I think I touched upon this earlier. This is an area that I think that is certainly in our platform, and our legislative, committee should be at the forefront of putting this forward. During the past biennium at the legislature, there are a number of bills that sought to get that 20% share. I know that our Oahu committee put in testimony at almost every hearing on that. Our Hawaiian caucus, of course, did as well. And I'm very proud of their work there. I think the Labor Caucus and LGBT Caucus might have as well. So I think that that is an area where we can push forward. But in addition to bills that dedicate what that share is, I think there's a number of other areas that we can look into, and we should probably be exploring to make sure that Native Hawaiians have their fair share, whether that's the Oha land in Kakako Makai. There's a number of restrictions on there, whether that's the land of Mauna Kea and the management and lease amounts that are owed to the Native Hawaiian community from the existing telescopes. I think these are all areas that we should be looking into, and not just one vehicle on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's time. So you're
Thank
closing
you very
statement.
much, Tyler. And now for your closing remarks. I believe you have 2 minutes.
Sure. So thank you again, Auntie Leimomi, for hosting this and being our moderator. Thank you to the caucuses and the Young Democrats for putting this together, for sharing this with your membership. And I look forward to, if I'm elected chair, and even if I'm not, to continuing to support your efforts, as well as the efforts of our entire party. So to the delegates who are watching, again, I'm Tyler Dos Santos Tam, candidate for Democratic Party chair. And I'm asking for your support when you get your ballot on July 24th. We need a party chair who will prioritize and deliver on fundraising, which is something that I've been very proud to do through my work in the Young Democrats. We need a chair who will work to effectively empower our counties and committees and caucuses to provide them with the support that they need. We need somebody who will be inclusive to make sure that diverse voices are represented and also welcomed into the party through our recruitment and through our public efforts. We need a chair who can communicate with members and the public, so that our party is relevant, so that folks know what good work our party is doing. This is an area that I would like to really focus in on. I think it's really important that we restart our newsletter to our members. If you ask the average member, the person that shows up at the March precinct meeting, what is the party up to? I think a lot of them wouldn't have an answer. They wouldn't know. And I think that's a shame, because there's a lot of good work to be done. And I think with good leadership, there's more that can be done to improve the party's infrastructure, to improve our fundraising, to make sure we have all the resources that we need to bring people in, and again, to communicate. And so those are the 4 areas that I'd like to bring to the table. So I'm Tyler Dos Santos Tam, candidate for Democratic Party chair, asking for your support. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Tyler. Thank you for your answers to all of those questions and for being the first. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Auntie Leimomi, and thank you, Tyler. While we get our next candidate ready, we do want to remind everyone that all the candidates for party chair, as well as SEC Senate reps, have had the opportunity to submit a statement, candidate statement, as well as picture. And all those have been posted to the party's website at hawaiidemocrats.org. Just click the tab marked E-Convention Candidate Statements to read them all there. Josh, are we ready? Are you ready, Josh?
I am.
Auntie Leimomi, the floor is yours.
Yes, I believe we're ready for Josh's opening statement. 3 minutes.
Right. Thank you, Leimomi. Aloha. Thank you to the caucuses and the Young Democrats for putting on this event, as it's a good opportunity for the delegates to get to know each of the chair candidates a little bit better. My name is Josh Frost. I am obviously a candidate for Hawaii Democratic Party of Hawaii chair. I've been a member of the party since 2004 and active since 2006. When I went to my first precinct meeting, I was an elected precinct president. Not a feat in itself, I understand, but since then I've held positions at every level of the party, including district and region chair. I've been a member of the State Central Committee for the past decade and have served on the executive committee previously as the assistant secretary and then as the secretary. I've attended every state convention save the one I missed for my brother's wedding. And even in that case, I remember making calls from the hotel in Austin, Texas to support candidates in Hawaii. My participation in the party is motivated by a deep belief that we can do great things when we come together, as well as my own commitment to the causes of economic, social, and environmental justice. My more than a decade actively engaged at every level in the party has given me a wealth of experience and a deep understanding of how our party functions, the political dynamics that exist within it, as well as the challenges we face. I have developed positive and respectful relationships with many people inside the party and can easily work with those who uphold democratic values and support fairness and transparency, regardless of which candidates we may have supported. In terms of fundraising, I will look to both traditional methods and new technology to reach the party's fundraising goals. I will connect with the DNC about how to be effective in raising funds through small contributions, as has been increasingly successful in recent years. I'll reach out to elected officials and other politically engaged individuals to seek contributions for our party. I also have strong relationships with a number of our local labor unions and will work to strengthen those relationships and seek their support for our party. Strengthening communications, input, and participation from the membership, I will commit within the first year to meet with members in every district to talk story, hear their thoughts and concerns and ideas for our party. I will also prioritize the use of volunteer phone banking to communicate with our membership, as well as encourage them to contribute. I hope you find this forum valuable, and I look forward to answering your questions. And since I won't be doing a closing statement, if you go to the e-statements, you can see mine, and there is listed my email address and phone number. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time to talk story. Mahalo.
Mhm. Thank you, Josh, for that opening statement. And now we'll begin the question and answer time. So the first question, random question for you is, how will you increase voter engagement within the party, and more specifically, voter engagement on neighbor islands?
Voter engagement in terms of voting in general and primary elections.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in general elections.
Yeah. So I think increasing communications with the membership and encouraging participation in local politics is essential. One of the things that I plan to do is to write a regular email to the entire membership, as well as hopefully establish a blog on the website to keep people informed, not only as to what the party is doing, but in terms of what's going on at the county and state levels of government. In addition, I think it's important to support candidates running in the primary and general election. And as party chair, I would reach out to members to let them know who's running in their districts, to let them know a little bit about all the candidates, and encourage them to participate in those primary and general campaigns.
Great. Second question is an environmental one. In 2020, the Environmental Caucus submitted a Green New Deal Hawaii package consisting of 33 bills covering a variety of issues. A similar package will be submitted for the 2021 legislative session. Will you support this package? Why or why not?
I absolutely support a Hawaii Green New Deal. As chair, I believe that it is the responsibility of the chair to follow the lead of the legislation committee and the priorities set by them as approved by the State Central Committee. So in those, it was in the platform, it was in the legislative priorities in 2020. As co-chair of the legislation committee for the last 2 years, we did submit testimony in support of a number of those bills. And if it arrives on the legislative priorities again, I would absolutely support it.
Yes, great, thank you. Next question. The Democratic Party of Hawaii platform provides that we support the right of Native Hawaiians to self-determination, including the formation of their chosen governmental entity. As chair of the party, do you support the right of self-governance by Native Hawaiians? If so, how will you show that support as chair? If not, why not?
I absolutely support the right of Native Hawaiians to self-determination. As chair, at least with respect to the legislation, you know, I would follow the lead again of the STC and the legislation committee. More broadly, I would seek input from Native Hawaiians, you know, to hear their thoughts and ideas about how the party can help support and move that issue forward.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question. As DPH chair, what will you do to support public education, especially with regard to our state's chronic teacher shortage?
As chair, I would reach out to and support the Hawaii State Teachers Association, work with them to support legislation. Again, any legislation that the party supports would have to be approved by the STC. I would be certainly willing, as chair, to testify in person on those issues. Public education is a top priority, not only for me, but for the state of Hawaii. And we need to find ways to support our teachers, make sure that our classrooms are full with qualified teachers, make sure those teachers are well paid. And
yeah, thank you. Question number 5, will you actively support at the DNC gender diversity instead of National Committee Woman and Man? Why?
Absolutely. I think it was a good thing that we did it here. I supported it when we did, and I would support it at the national level. It shows support for diversity in our party, both locally and nationally. One of the things that I love about the Democratic Party of Hawaii and the Democratic Party nationally is our commitment to diversity and recognizing and supporting that diversity and removing the gender identifiers for National Committee Man and Committee Woman is a way to show that support. So I would absolutely work to that end.
Great. As party chair, will you advocate for a $17 an hour minimum wage?
I support a living wage for all workers in Hawaii. As chair, I would hope that the legislation committee would continue to make this a top priority, as it has been during my time as legislation committee chair. And were it a priority for the party, I would, as chair, testify for any increase to the minimum wage.
Great. What's your position on the Red Hill fuel tanks?
I think they need to be removed. I think all the evidence and science is there, and we need to find an alternative that doesn't put at risk residents on Oahu and put at risk our water supply. Mm-hmm. Having said that, again, with respect to the party's position in legislation and both at the county and state levels, I would encourage the legislation committee to make it an issue. But again, I follow the leadership of the state central committee in terms of legislative priorities.
Thank you. Will you actively support reproductive rights for women, including choice?
Yes, I'm a strong believer in choice. I think women absolutely should have the right to control the choices they make with respect to their own bodies. I think that is unequivocal. It is in our state platform and is in our national platform. And as chair, I would support those issues.
Yes, great. Josh, what do you see the role of the caucuses are in our party? And will you support the formation of other caucuses?
The caucuses were established to provide a voice for underrepresented constituencies in the party. My memory serves, the very first caucus formed was the LGBT caucus, and I worked with Bill Woods in those early days in support of the caucus and in support of increasing the party's role on LGBT rights issues. To that end, I think all the caucuses that exist currently do represent underrepresented constituencies in Hawaii. If there are other underrepresented constituencies that would seek formation of a caucus in Hawaii, I would, it's up to the SCC you know, to look at that and make the determination.
I see. Thank you. Will you wholeheartedly promote and actively solicit support for the Democratic Party presidential nominee? And if so, how will you do this?
Absolutely. I think everyone knows who my first choice for president was. And in 2016, I supported Flo Conkey for chair, and her promise was to support Bernie Sanders because he won the vote in Hawaii in 2016. In 2020, Joe Biden won the vote, and as the party chair, that's who I would support for the nomination.
Great, thank you. This one should be easy for you. What will you do to promote the Democratic Party of Hawaii's platform and our legislative priorities so that they are prioritized by our state level elected officials?
Yes. So electing, the creation of a strong and vibrant and active legislation committee is one of my priorities. I've served on 3 separate occasions as legislation committee chair or co-chair. Advancing the party's policies and principles at the legislature is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. As legislation chair in the past, I have attempted to meet, not with much success, with House and Senate Democratic leadership to discuss with them the priorities, to try to work with them on our priorities. Every year that I've been chair, we've sent them a letter letting them know what our priorities are, reaching out to them, asking to work with them, and at least in my experience, haven't received any response. As chair, I would continue to try to work with them through the legislation committee, but I would also be prepared to call them out when they don't, you know, through emails to the membership or, you know, on the, I think we shouldn't be afraid when there are honest disagreements. I think, and these are the party's priorities, I think it is incumbent upon us and upon the chair to take a stand for the principles that the party represents. And it may not always be easy and it may create friction, but these are the foundational things that make us Democrats. And I think sometimes we have to pursue them vigorously. And that might not always make everyone happy.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Right, thank you. Given the impact of COVID-19 and the fact that so many lost their employment-tied health insurance, would you support a Hawaii-based universal healthcare system or Medicare for all? Why or why not? And if yes, how would you influence the legislature?
I absolutely support universal healthcare. Healthcare is a basic human right, and I've supported the issue as long as I can remember. In terms of supporting it, again, it's to me, it's one of those, if it's a priority for the party through the legislation committee as approved by the state central committee, I would absolutely support it. Looking for ways to make it feasible in Hawaii is important. And I think the mechanisms are there. I think the money is available to do it. We just need the mechanisms and the will to get it done. And I would pursue that.
Yeah, great. Will you actively promote diversity in the party leadership at every level, including women, people of color, LGBT, Kupuna, Native Hawaiian, and how will you do this?
Yes. You know, one of the things that I love about Hawaii is its diversity. I grew up in Kansas, surrounded by white people. And when I came here, I love the diversity and I love the different cultures and the mixing pot, and our party is representative of that. And if elected, I would seek to represent that diversity through the various committees that I have that the chair has the authority to appoint, so that we do represent diversity in ideas and backgrounds and ideologies.
Mhm. Great, great. For over a decade, graduate assistants employed at the university have been trying to unionize. As party chair, will you support their efforts to pass a bill that will allow them to unionize?
Yes, absolutely. The right of workers to unionize, I think, is central, not only to the vibrancy of our economy, but the strength of our democracy. And grad assistants absolutely should have the right to organize. I absolutely support their efforts. If I'm elected chair, I will work with Academic Labor United and the ILWU, as well as the Legislation Committee, to do what I can to make it a priority for the party. Again, it's ultimately up to the Legislation Committee and the State Central Committee, but this is an issue that's time has long since come, and we need to move forward on it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Josh. Next question. You were sent some background info on this question. As chair, do you support updating the pro rata share of the public land trust revenues to Native Hawaiians? If so, how would you advance this support? And if not, why not?
I absolutely support increasing the pro rata share. I think that there have been bills on this. I don't think the legislature has gone far enough to meet the state's obligation. As chair, I would hope and encourage that this is a priority for the party, and if so, I would testify in support. I would work with the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus to look for other opportunities to advance the issue, as well as talking to folks at OHA on how the party may support them in these efforts.
Yeah, great, thank you. What's your position on veterans benefits?
Veterans benefits in terms of?
Just in general.
In general. Yeah. These are people who volunteer to defend and protect our country, and that too many of them don't have the benefits that they need in terms of health benefits, in terms of retirement or whatever. They volunteer and risk their lives, as I understand it, it's a federal issue, but I think that this is something that we absolutely have to push our congressional delegation and do whatever we can within the DNC to advance this issue. They shouldn't be wanting for anything, as far as I'm concerned. And that they are is disgraceful.
Great, thank you. At what point in Hawaii's history do you believe the Democratic Party was the strongest?
That is a good question. I don't know that I actually know. I mean, I would say the strongest was maybe in the beginning, 1954, with the revolution, when the party came to power in the legislature. There may have been other times in our history where we were strong. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know.
30 seconds. You have 30 seconds, Josh.
Okay, let's go to another question, Josh.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Will you provide regular reports to the membership of the party, of party activities?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I enjoy doing is writing. I have a blog that I write to as regularly as I can, and send out emails occasionally to a list of people.
Time.
Oh.
That was for the whole thing. Okay, well, yes, I will.
Hey, you did pretty good. You answered 18 out of the 19.
All right.
We'll hear your closing remarks now. And you
not
have
doing one.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Oh,
I
you're not
advocated.
doing well.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's why
Thank
you're able to get through so many. Thank you so much. Okay, back to Michael.
All right, thank you. We have one last candidate, and while we're getting things ready, besides the party elections that we have coming up, we also have the upcoming state primary elections. And for the first time ever in the state of Hawaii, it will be an all mail-in, which means if you have, for every registered voter by July 9th, they will have a ballot mailed to their homes, around July 21st. So you can vote from the comfort and safety of your own home. If you don't want to vote by mail, don't worry, you don't have to. Or if you missed the deadline, don't worry, because we have same-day voter registration. There will be 8 voter service centers around the state of Hawaii, and their locations and hours are available on the party website at hawaiidemocrats.org. Just click the link that says Vote Blue 2020 at the top of the page. There you will find all the information that you need to know to vote in the upcoming primary and general elections. Are we all set?
Yes, I think we're all set.
Kevan?
Michael, thank you for that that reminder for us on the regular elections, the regular public elections that will be held. And next we have Kevan Wong. Aloha, Kevan. Kevan there?
Aloha. Hi.
Kevan, we're ready for your opening remarks, 3 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, mahalo to the interim party chair, Kate, and the caucuses and the Young Democrats and the OCC, and Joe and Michael and Etile Momi for helping and making this all possible. My name is Kevan John Kamakana Wong, and I'm humbly asking for your vote for state chair. As a lifelong Democrat, it's been my pleasure to serve as the Region 1 chair and the SCC rep for Senate District 9, Kapahulu to Makapu'u. There's many things in Hawaii that we take for granted. The closeness of family and friends and our ohana go far beyond that of any other place in the world. And I feel like lately our sense of community has been veering in a weird direction in the party. Some people are being treated unequally. There are attacks from one member to the other. And that's not what we need to do here. It's unacceptable. We need to bring each other closer together and become a unified party. And that's my goal. We need to get the people to work together and not just the people in the party, but all the people of Hawaii. I think that the Oahu County Democrats, we took a good step forward this year. We held a number of region meetings for the members, and they all voiced their opinions and engaged in talks with elected officials. And as a result, we helped to develop a majority package that was introduced at the legislature this year. They focused on the main concerns that were voiced by the Oahu regions, and it was mostly education and the minimum wage, affordable housing, and healthcare. I spent a long time working at the legislature, and I worked primarily with the committees on higher education, finance, the judiciary, and later on I worked in the grants and aid process. I did this while I was earning my Juris Doctorate at the University of Hawaii Law School. And I believe that the skills that I've gained over the years will greatly improve the lines of communication between our elected officials and our members. The legislature is poised to address climate change, sustainability, food supply, our economy, and our health care, and our input is critical. And I think that as your chair, I would help in that endeavor a lot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you so much, Kevan. So we have several questions for you, and they are in random order. And the first question is, what do you see the role of the caucuses are in the party, and will you support the formation of other caucuses?
Oh, yes, I will support the formation of other caucuses. I believe that our caucuses are, designed to help us focus on certain areas. Each caucus has its own specialty, and looking at everything by yourself is a large task. So I'm happy that we have different caucuses to look at each of those areas, and we have experts that can look at each area, and you know, you don't have to be an expert on everything to help with the help. So I like that we have these these caucuses that will help and know what they're doing, and they're
Yes.
essential.
Yes. Thank you, Kevin. The next question is, the Democratic Party of Hawaii platform provides that we support the right of Native Hawaiians to self-determination, including the formation of their chosen governmental entity. As chair of the party, do you support the right of self-governance by Native Hawaiians? If so, how will you show that support as chair? And if not, why not?
I do support it. I am Native Hawaiian myself. My grandma is, you know, part Hawaiian. I am a Ho'okano, and I'm proud to be it. We have our family reunion every once in a while, and it's a very nice sight to see. But I do appreciate them, and I fully support them self-governing. As to how, I'm not sure how that looks. I know that it's going to come down to support at the legislature, which I think we can provide. And again, that's going to be, as has been mentioned by the other candidates, it is an entire party thing. And I think when we work together, we can find the right approach.
I see. Great. Thank you. Next question. How will you increase voter engagement within the party, and more specifically, voter engagement in neighbor islands?
Voter engagement is tough. As we've seen now, I think we have a unique opportunity. Everything is being changed. We have Zoom calls for everything. I think it presents a unique opportunity to extend our reach and get the word out there to, hey, let's participate. We should. All of us should. And it's, I know it's difficult sometimes, but I feel like a lot of times it's just because people don't know. And I think the new developments that we have, I'm really grateful that the party has purchased this Zoom account so that we can talk to more people. And I think that's where we start.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. What will you do to promote the Democratic Party of Hawaii's platform and our legislative priorities so they are prioritized by our state level elected officials?
Well, as I mentioned, I spent a long time working at the legislature. It's been 8 years or so. After that, I left the state legislature and I work at the office of the managing director now for the city and county of Honolulu, where I'm their legislative liaison. As part of my position is to coordinate the legislation that's proposed and all the testimony that the city departments will submit on that legislation. We regularly meet with elected officials and we do our best to express our concerns and suggest different points for any legislation that would affect each department. And I think my experience with that will help a lot. And talking to the legislature is a very important part.
Yeah, thank you. The next question, will you actively support reproductive rights for women, including choice?
Yes, I will. I've been at the legislature, like I said, and I have gone through the hours and hours of testimony and hearings that were presented to the Judiciary Committee in the last few years. The stories that you hear are amazing and terrible. It's amazing how people could be denied the choice to do what they want, and also, access to it is important too. I think that every woman should be able to choose whatever they want. It's their body. They have the choice, and I will fully support that.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. As party chair, will you advocate for a $17 an hour minimum wage?
I think the minimum wage definitely needs to be raised. It's been an issue that's been very difficult to figure out an approach, as to how that's gonna, how that will happen. But I think it needs to happen. It's unfortunate that people are scraping by just to make it, and it's unacceptable. So I will support a minimum wage that's significantly increased.
Yes, thank you. Next question. As DPH chair, what will you do to support public education, especially with regard to our state's chronic teacher shortage?
Well, I think one of the main things that we need to do is listen to our teachers. My auntie is actually a teacher. She works at, I don't know if I should say which school, but she is a great teacher. And I hear the stories all the time of the difficulties that they have, you know, whether it's shortages of supplies or, you know, overcrowding in the classroom. I think that a serious look needs to be taken at how we run our schools. You know, my grandparents always used to say that education is the one thing they can never take from you. And I feel like we need to ensure that the youth has a good education and that the teachers are able to provide that.
Great. Next question. Will you wholeheartedly promote and actively solicit support for the Democratic Party presidential nominee? And how will you do this?
Yes, I will. You know, I think it's a big issue. You know, we want to provide a unified front, and you know, what it comes down to is we're gonna vote blue. We want to get the Democratic Party. We want to further it, no matter who the choice is, as long as it's the choice for us. You know, when we talk about promoting them, you know, I think we need to work together. You know, like Kate said earlier, it's bad to attack the other ones, and I think, you know, just supporting the candidate as much as we can from everybody, that's what we need to do.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Turning to environmental questions, what's your position on the Red Hill fuel tanks?
I think that it should have been shut down a long time ago. You know, it's a very difficult issue because, unfortunately, you know, our state government has little authority over what the federal institutions are going to do. But with work, I think we can voice the opinion of everyone here, where we say we don't want a contaminated water source. We want to make sure that everyone is safe, and, you know, getting rid of that is an important thing. You know, we can't endanger our water supply. It needs to be protected.
Yes, thank you. In 2020, the Environmental Caucus submitted a Green New Deal Hawaii package that consisted of 33 bills, covered a variety of issues. A similar package will be submitted for 2021. Will you support this package? Why or why not?
I will. I think, you know, Hawaii is a unique place where we are, you know, we're very isolated. It shows, you know, when we had this pandemic that people were worried about everything being shipped here. You know, I think moving towards a self-sustainable format is good. You know, depending on which bills are part of the package, I believe that our legislation committee will determine what the entire state wants, and that should be prioritized.
Great. COVID-19. Given the impact of COVID-19 and so many who have lost their employment-tied health insurance, would you support a Hawaii-based universal healthcare system or Medicare for all? Why or why not? And if yes, how would you influence the legislature?
I would support it. I'm not sure exactly how it would work. And that, I think, is the question for everyone. I'm not sure if Hawaii could do it by themselves. but I would be very open to all the research and information that is going to be coming out of that idea. And, I think as a party, we should all look at it. And once we evaluate it, I'm happy to share that information with the legislature. And I think we can all submit testimony and let them hear what Hawaii needs.
Yes, great. Kevin, will you actively support at the DNC gender diversity instead of National Committee Woman and Man? And if so, why?
I will. I think as Josh said, we're a very diverse place. I think the rest of the nation can take a example from us. We are one of the more diverse places when it comes to everything. Ethnicity and gender-based everything. I think that it's very important, and I think that when we move forward, we're the ones that are going to be setting an example for the rest of the state or for the rest of the nation. And so, yes, I will support it.
Yes, thank you. Next question, for which all the candidates were sent background information. And so the question is, as chair, do you support updating the pro rata share of the public land trust revenues to Native Hawaiians? If so, how would you advance this support? And if not, why not?
Well, absolutely, yes. And I am Native Hawaiian, like I said. It is important. It hasn't been updated in, I forget how long, but a long time ago. I think it needs to be looked at very carefully. And I think that as a party, we should support our Hawaiian members, and we can all get together and help each other, and submit testimony to the legislature and contact our elected officials.
Yes, thank you. Next question. For over a decade, graduate assistants employed at the University of Hawaii have been trying to unionize. As party chair, will you support their efforts to pass a bill that will allow them to unionize?
Yes, I think they should be able to unionize. I think that's part of a huge education model reform that we need to do in our college systems. And, I think just giving them the opportunity to organize is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Will you actively promote diversity in the party leadership at every level, including women, people of color, LGBT, kupuna, Native Hawaiians? And if so, how will you do this?
Yes, I will. I believe that the party needs to reach out and, bring in as many people from outside as we can. I think, opinions from every race, every mindset is important. The last thing we want is for people to feel excluded. And as a party, I think we should be the welcoming force.
I see, thank you. Okay, this is an interesting question. At what point in Hawaii's history do you believe the Democratic Party was the strongest?
I would probably say at the beginning. It took a interesting way to start, and I think that I don't want to say that we have become complacent, but I think we're under the assumption that that we're gonna win everything. The Democrats are gonna be the person. And the last thing that I want is for us to be overconfident and lose. So I think we started great a long time ago, and I would like to continue that.
I see, thank you. Next question. What's your position on veterans benefits?
Veterans benefits are very important. My grandpa is a veteran. He is in his 90s now, and I have no idea how we would be able to do anything if he didn't have help from the government. He He wasn't a fighter, but he handled a lot of their communications efforts, and it was a very important job. He doesn't have when you dedicate that amount of time to a cause like that, I think it's only right that you're rewarded for the time that you put in. And like I said, I don't know where we would be without it.
I see. I see.
Okay, that's time.
Okay. Kevin, thank you. You went through quite a few questions there. We're now ready for your closing statement of 2 minutes.
Well, thank you again. I just want to say that, as we face the challenges that lie ahead, we all need to pull together and rebuild Hawaii. All of us will need a seat at the table, and we need to take a fresh look at the future of our state. I believe strongly in the power of aloha, outreach, competence, transparency, and fairness. And I'll be putting these beliefs into action at the table if I should receive your votes. A couple of responsibilities of the state chair is to raise funds and to spend funds they receive wisely. I just want to point this out since it has been mentioned. I have already received a commitment from a retired CFO of a large healthcare system to serve as a finance committee chair if I'm elected. I believe we need to allocate the resources in a new way, considering the new reality. I'm committed to bringing all the experience and dedication that I have to work for you as your state chair. I've progressed in my career by administrating fairly, helping to negotiate and take steps towards policy that can benefit everyone. My hope is to level the playing field to ensure that all are included, welcome, and treated fairly, and to support the Democratic candidates to ensure successful outcomes. The only very special interest that I'm beholden to is the people of Hawaii. My name is Kevan Janwa Kamakana Wong. I humbly ask for your vote for state chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Mahalo, Kevin. We thank all of the candidates, and actually Michael will be doing the closing remarks. Michael, I think, we're so lucky. We have really great candidates who are up to the challenge of leading our party. And I wonder, just before your closing remarks, could you just remind everybody about when we're going to be voting for the party chair?
Sure thing, Anthony Momi. For all the delegates, you will receive an email at midnight on Friday, July 24th. You will have until 11:59 p.m. on Saturday, July 25th to cast your ballots. You'll get 2 emails, one from Kate, bringing the convention back into order, and then the other one will be from Maryland River Group. And that one there, you'll have your PIN as well as your other ID number that you need to participate and vote properly. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Sure. Well, we've come to the end of this historic candidate forum. On behalf of all the caucuses, Hawaiian Affairs, Women's, LGBT, Labor, Education, I can usually do this off the top of my head. Sorry. Environmental, Veterans, who am I missing? I'm missing somebody.
You got him.
Women's, Kapuna, there we go. And the Young Democrats, sorry about that. Brain fart, been a long day. I want to thank you all for participating. We do want to thank all of our candidates for participating, as well as we want to thank you, Anthony Momi, for being our moderator. And a special mahalo goes out to Joe Frencher for being our wonderful Zoom operator, as well as to the Oahu County Committee for the use of their Zoom account. And of course, we want to thank you all for tuning in for this forum. Reminder, a recording of this will be posted to and made available to all the co-sponsors of this event. If you have any questions about voting, whether it's the party elections or the upcoming state primary, all the information you need is found in one location, and that is the state party website. If you want to get involved with any of the caucuses that help make tonight's forum happen tonight, their information there and the contact information is there. So please use the party website at hawaiidemocrats.org. And a big mahalo I want to send out to Interim Chair Kate Stanley for everything she has done to keep us going, keeping us moving, and making this convention actually happen during these unprecedented times. On that, I close this out.
Michael,
Yes,
a woman always gets the last word. And so Can we all give Michael a great round of applause for organizing this evening's forum? Thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome. Thank you all. All right. Good night and aloha, and get out there and stay safe, please, everybody. Wear a mask for the love of God, and practice physical distancing and wash your hands.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Aloha.
Everyone.
Aloha.
Aloha.